Well, welcome everybody. It is my absolute pleasure today to introduce the recipient of the EDA Economic Development Leadership Award, recently awarded at the National Economic Development Conference, hosted by Liverpool City Council and held virtually this year. This award recognises an individual who has displayed dedication and commitment to his or her community as a leader and advocate for economic development. They will have demonstrated sustained and effective efforts to work with community groups and industry leaders in the development of programs and projects. And the winner of the Economic Development Leadership Award in 2021 was Peter Jeffery. And Peter joins me today with the person who nominated him without his knowledge for this award, Willa Whitewolf. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks, Jacqueline.
Peter, I'd like to start today with you just talking about your work in economic development. The judges certainly recognise that you have demonstrated a commitment to economic development practice for many years. I thought it would be good for you to tell us a bit about the key initiatives that you instigated while you were at the City of Bendigo.
Yeah, sure. I think any economic development practitioner has a fairly long repertoire when it comes to initiatives, but the first initiative that really, I guess you could say, earned the stripes was the Bendigo Inventor Awards, which was an award that went global, and that was to identify basically new initiatives and help them scale up, and obviously create employment, which is the underpinning objective of economic development. So the Inventor Awards was really to identify and support fledgling businesses and ideas. And this also helped promote our community as an innovative township, being in central Victoria. We're actually a small city in Bendigo as opposed to a large town now. So the home of Bendigo Bank, obviously. We had some huge support from some fairly large corporates locally and also from around the world towards the final years of when I was involved with the Inventor Awards, which still runs today, which is fantastic. Then I guess, career horizons, I might touch on that in a moment because that's really where Willa comes in, and that's how I met Willa, was through that project. But the business help desk and red tape reduction with the small business minister was one of the, I guess, the larger efforts. Bendigo was quite proud to be the first with another council in Victoria called Maryborough around delivering reduction in red tape and reducing the process for businesses to open their doors through our statutory planning or our planning area, both statutory and regulatory. So this is a huge amount of work, and being first to be first, as you can appreciate, requires a lot of effort, a lot of trial and error, a lot of mistakes to help pave the way for others to get it right. So they were some real projects that I hung my hat on, but the Career Horizons project was quite unique. And this was something that I think I might let Willa talk a little bit more about, but a program designed to identify an opportunity for young people to get involved in the world of work from primary through to tertiary. And the idea was to make sure that we didn't have a skills leak, to make sure that our students and our younger people found a career opportunity local, and they had an opportunity to decide where they wanted to go with their career and their studies to make sure that they were on track at a very early age with whether they were blue collar, white collar, or green collar. And it was a fairly simple concept. And the idea was to create a platform that allowed educators and industry to engage and make sure that young people had a great opportunity to identify what's on their back doorstep in relation to a career opportunity. And naturally, with any good project, you have a committee. And on our committee was La Trobe University. And I was lucky enough to have the person who was responsible for work placement involved on that committee, who then introduced Willa to us. And that was where the journey really kicked off. And maybe it's a good time for me to stop talking and hand over. Jacqueline, what do you think?
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Peter. In fact, I might just right now bring Willa in here. Now, Willa, Peter's CV is impressive. Anyone who has worked with him has no doubt as to his skill and commitment to local economic development. That's certainly evident in the congratulatory messages that he received through EDA. But this award is more than just a practitioner award. It's often, been awarded in the past to elected officials and community leaders. And it was, as I understand it, it was the story of the support that Peter provided you and possibly other mentorees, I think, that swayed the judges in awarding Peter in this category in particular. Can you tell us why we should also tell our viewers that it was in fact you that wrote this application? Peter didn't know that you were submitting on his behalf. Why were you so motivated to see Peter's work acknowledged?
Well, he might have known close to the end because I was asking some very unusual questions. But yes, I was able to do it by myself, and I had met Peter in 2013. I had started university in second semester and went straight to the careers advisor within weeks, asking how I could be relevant in the workforce, because I had a 15-year break and 6 children. So I hadn't been in a professional environment for some time. And I was studying strategic communication, and I needed to know how to catch up to my peers. And she provided an introduction to the City of Greater Bendigo and Peter Jeffery as my supervisor to do an advertising campaign. I didn't know how to do that, but I thought that I would give it a go, and I knew that Google would help me get the job done. Anything I didn't know, I would be able to find out. And I had lecturers there as well. And so this started a project, the Career Horizons project. And so all of a sudden I was interviewing educators, I was interviewing some of the major employers in Bendigo, and I was being exposed to the committee, who were some very experienced people and powerful people. And it was a terrific project. And when I could see my job finishing, I could also see that this project actually needed a lot more work, and that a student workforce might be useful, because I had certainly had a lot of exposure, and it made me feel very confident because the advertising campaign was well received. All of a sudden, I've gone from changing nappies to, seeing my own work in print, which was very exciting and made me feel very clever. So I brought a student team on, and we did a whole lot of activities over about 18 months. And Peter looked after that group. It was very professional introduction into the workforce. He took us through Myers-Briggs programs. He took us around to employers. He provided support and introductions. I know that he has been a mentor outside of the project to a lot of those students afterwards, and really gave of himself, I think, in a way that I wasn't seeing a lot of other individuals doing. And I thought it was really impressive. And as you know, he's a terrific operator anyway, so a very good example of how to communicate, how to plan and execute ideas. So it was just a really amazing experience. And because I was so involved, and then fortunately council offered me consulting work writing, which was terrific. So the involvement continued, and I realised that I had a unique perspective. I was seeing a really good operator in this space, and I could see his visions for the future because he was telling me about it. And at that point, I think Career Horizons had won an EDA award. And I think at that point, I was determined that one day I will apply for an award for Peter. One day I will, I took it on myself as my responsibility that I was pretty much the only person who had this perspective, And I thought at some point I will tell my story. And it just worked out that over the years, I've kept in touch with Peter. I heard about his plans for Grant Guru from the time that it was being implemented with City of Greater Bendigo to the time that Peter recognised that he would have to move out of the city to develop it further. And then hearing about his wins along the way, and new clients that were being brought onto this platform, and really a lot of the success story of how much impact Grant Guru has had for councils. And
So
I think
there's a big story there. And
at the same time,
Peter, I think it must be overwhelming to hear somebody speak about you in that way. I know that you are a humble person, so I know that we're putting you on the spot here. I think what Willa talks about in terms of you providing that support to herself in the organisation, entering back into the workforce, and also the other mentorees through the program. Can you just talk a little bit about your approach there? You know, there's a lot written about the importance of mentors. I am a huge proponent myself of that. I've seen that in action. I've experienced that myself. We need more. But it's not easy to be a mentor as well when you're in a, you've got your own pressures, and you're dealing with their own, those people's journey as well. What advice would you give to people that perhaps are in your position now that could provide that support?
Yeah, it's a good question and some good points there. It's a case where I viewed taking on work experience as a way to, basically my workload shifted. It changed, but wasn't increased or wasn't decreased. So I was now working with a team of staff, and mind you, we conducted taking on board work experience students in a very similar manner to a job interview. In other words, selecting right is key. And I think that's the same for anywhere. Having the right people in the right role is the key, but also giving the right tasks to the right people. And I feel that everyone has a specific area of interest or skill set or ability, and aligning the task with that and matching that with the ability is also key. So this, I guess, was the approach that we took. And I say we because I've had over 20 students in my time, in my career, not just at council, but previously. And most of those were in partnership with Willa. And first of all, I recognised a skill. Basically, in my opinion, I could blatantly see the skill set that Willa had. It was obvious. Having worked with contractors day in, day out in council, as you do, you get to tell, you get an idea of who is and who is not below the line or can cut the weight. So as soon as I met Willa, I recognised a skill set, and really opportunity was all that was needed to flame that fire, so to speak. So from there, I very quickly identified that there was a good opportunity to work with Willa and other students to manage teams of students, to give them an opportunity, but also to embed best practice work experience. I think we all remember our work experience opportunity. I know I do. It was at a marketing agency, and they still cut tape and stuck it together and did voiceovers. But I decided that wasn't the industry for me. But without doubt, work experience was imperative for a young person to decide, what am I going to study when I'm older? Am I going to study? What do I want to do? And because my father had passed when I was quite young, my mother wasn't in the workforce, I didn't have a direct stream or contacts to get work experience. So for me, I remember that work experience. And in fact, Willa and I interviewed 100 La Trobe University students directly ourselves, with the assistance of some of those students, to ask that key question: how did work experience impact your life? And the results, astounding. Over 80% clearly impacted what they were studying or where they were going to work. And quite clearly, a lot of them didn't really understand what they were studying because they hadn't really been involved in work experience to see what the end result of their studies would look like in the real world. So this is where you find students decide, no, I don't want to work in the area I've studied because it's not what I thought it was going to be. So I think the power of work experience is somewhat underestimated. And for others out there who are in the position where they need help with a workload, or they're thinking this would be a good opportunity for somebody to join me and work with me, your workload doesn't increase, it just changes. It's the same workload, but you're giving younger people an eye in and a view to what they are good or not good at. And as a result, a really good opportunity for especially local government to have a greater social impact. And I know for a fact in local government, we do have a lot that we do, and the public don't know all the stuff that we do in council. I didn't know until I started working in local government, all the services we provide.
Yeah.
So there's a heap of opportunity there.
I think that's a really great point, and in particular in economic development. So the EDA members in their roles have so many touch points in the organisation and also in the community that it's a fantastic opportunity for a work experience student to get a really good sense of what local government does, the impact that it can have, and across a raft of eventual jobs, so community development, creative industries, placemaking, economic development, investment attraction, they would get a taste of all of those opportunities. So perhaps it's a very, very much an underestimated opportunity for students, but also, as case in point with you, for the practitioners themselves. I think you obviously provided a fantastic stepping off point for Willa, but there is clearly no doubt in the story that you two share that Willa provided back to the organisation, and I think to yourself, Peter, personally, multiple fold.
Yeah.
I know that you've both moved on to other things and are both excelling in your respective careers, and you are both a huge inspiration. The story is inspirational. Willa, thank you so much for nominating Peter for this award. And Peter, congratulations to you. It's so well deserved. You have made a huge impact to the profession and clearly to a number of people coming through the profession and students across a broad sector. So we very much appreciate hearing your story and look forward to staying in touch with both of you. Perhaps we can touch base again in a year or so and see where you are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, both of you.
Thanks very much, Jacqueline.